I'm here today with Van of Nite to talk about Voices of the Kronian Moon that comes out March 25th on Season of Mist. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me about this record. And let's start off from the beginning. What was more challenging for you, the debut record or the follow-up to the debut record?
Definitely the follow-up, mostly because of the whole pandemic thing that happened exactly when we started working on it. The first album, happened kind of. We were not really a band when it happened, so the slate was clean, and basically we could do whatever we wanted. And I mean, I could do whatever I wanted when I first started doing demos, and then when I first met with the guys, we didn't really have any expectations or any deadlines from any labels or anything like that. So that was, pretty easy to do. With the second album, there were a lot of hiccups. Like there were also some personal issues that in the band that were going on, like health issues and stuff like that. But also the whole pandemic thing made us to not be able to meet for like 7 months or something. We were pretty by the book at the time. We didn't really see each other for 7 months, but we did do everything over Zoom, or like I would go set up the mics in the studio for Pat, our drummer, and then he would go in the next day by himself with his laptop, and he would press record, and then he would do the takes for the album. And it was kind of wild. I mean, but the whole world was going through something similar, so yeah, we were not unique or alone in this. But yeah, there were a lot of obstacles, and then Season of Mist coming in on the for the album. We were halfway through the process when we signed with them. That was also very intense, because we went from having a very minimal chores list, to a very extensive chores list, like, and many photo shoots and videos and all that stuff. So yeah, that was pretty intense.
From a creative standpoint, where did this album start for you? What is the starting point?
Are you asking me about the time frame, like when, or
well, like what inspired you from an inspiration perspective? What is that creative starting point?
Well, I mean, I think there is there's this essence throughout the music we do, which is kind of the same for us, be it the first album or the second album. So our influences and our inspiration comes kind of from the same place. So it's not that apparent in the first album that we are very inspired by sci-fi movies or like fantasy movies and all that, but this is just who we are. We like horror movies, we like sci-fi movies, and that is coming out through the stuff we create. And so yeah, for me this thing was for me personally, this thing was kind of what I set out to do when I first started thinking about songs for a new band that I was thinking about. And this whole like sci-fi, like heavy metal magazine aesthetic, like underground European comic books meets like underground American cinema and all that. Couple that with the new wave of British heavy metal, and that golden era of heavy metal, like with Metallica and Megadeth and Slayer and all that. That is the whole point of
pot.
Yeah, so this thing is like endless. Like we can draw from that pool of inspiration. There's so much to do. Like even if we watch like Alien or something, and then the next day we can watch, I don't know, like a 70s horror movie, and there's so much there to draw from.
Do you set goals for yourself when it comes to a record, like at the beginning of the process of what you want to achieve with this album, or do you allow things to be a little bit more organic in terms of how they flow is how they flow?
That is actually something we did with this album. Like I was a very wise comment that our guitar player Scott made in one of our early Zoom calls on this album. Is like, what do we want to see as a headline somewhere about this album? What do we want to? How do we want to steer the ship slightly? And what do we want to achieve with this album? And what we all agreed on was that we wanna like get out of the horror genre like that much. Like the first album was very horror oriented, very dark, very um like mysterious, and like there was a lot of terror, and you know, it was a very horror theme inspired, and we wanted to break free of that because, you know, black metal, and of course we're not playing black metal, but like we're very inspired by that genre, especially on the vocals. But you know, there's this it's very hard for people to associate this kind of sound with different thematology, and yeah, we don't really like to do things the way they are supposed to be done, and we find happiness in that. You know, we like there's joy in us, like going against the grain. That's why we love doing that. Like there's really no, I don't know. I don't really find any interest in me doing yet another death metal band, and you know. So yeah, that was what we were going for. Like we wanted to explore a more like light and a more melodic realm, and let loose a little bit of the darkness. Of course, it's there. Like towards the end of the album, like there is a very sharp turn. Like after the song "Edge of the Night," there are two songs like "Thorns" and "Trident," which especially "Thorns" is like a really nightmarish song. And it's very dark. I mean, for us, especially when we play that and we go through that song, it's pretty rough. But still, the whole essence of the album, I think it's much more light. It's much more positive in a way, but with an underlying, you know, melancholy and darkness to it. Hopefully. Yeah.
When you look at the journey that the album provides, is that journey created as part of the creative process of how you want the album to flow from beginning to end? Or is that journey that the album has a little bit more organic and driven by the soundscape that you've created on each and every single song?
Well, the story is not exactly. I mean, it is a concept album in a way. Not. I mean, it doesn't have to be played from start to finish, but to make sense. But there is a story behind the whole. There is a concept behind the whole album. To be honest with you, it's not a linear concept. So the story that we have in our minds, anyway, is not like track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But yeah, the order of the tracks is what makes what worked great for the album as a listening experience. But it's not a linear thing, if it makes sense.
What do you feel defines the soundscape on this record? I know you mentioned that it's not as dark as the previous one, but is there one thing that you can pinpoint on this album that defines the whole record sound-wise?
Great question. Yeah, I haven't really thought about that in that way. Well, yeah, as I said before, I think there is a lightness to it. There are things we do musically that are a little bit not common. Although, to be honest with you, Maiden did that extensively back in the 80s. I love how there's this like more major sound to it, like more like major chord sound to it at some places. There is something going on, but it's hard for me to communicate because it's very it's kind of I have my personal ways to to like talk about this, but to me this thing there is it's an homage to like bands we like that are more prog than we did on the first album. So there are moments to me that I am, as a guitar player, I'm trying to channel more lyrical guitar players, like, you know, like bands like Rush, or like more prog stuff like Alan Parsons and stuff. But these are, I don't think that people are gonna really get that because it's very, you know, there are many layers above that. But to me, that thing that the music has a more lyrical voice to it in general is the key here. There is a more like soundtrack melody to it than the first album, I think.
I felt like the album was very guitar driven. Do you think the album is guitar driven? And the second part of that question is, when you have an album that depends a lot on the guitars to drive the experience throughout, is there so do you concern yourself with allowing the album to become maybe more one-dimensional, just really depending on one thing?
Well, I don't look. I mean, my life is driven by guitar. Like
I
everything
can
I do,
tell.
everything I do ever since I was a kid is. I'm crazy about it. You know, like I ever since I picked up the guitar, that's it. You know what I mean? So of course there is a lot of guitar on the on the album, and definitely the voice is takes. You know, it's not the main protagonist here. Although that is very hard for
Although
people
it's
to.
phenomenal. Although it's phenomenal.
Thank you very much. But yeah, it is very hard to like expect that people are gonna take guitar more seriously than the voice, because we're all human, we all speak. Of course, people are fixated on the voice, right? But yeah, guitar is definitely why this band exists for me, at least, because I'm a guitar player, right? So yeah, I think guitar is such a multi-dimensional instrument. And again, I'm a guitar fanboy, right? So you're asking the wrong person here. If you ask our drummer, maybe he will say, "Yeah, I'm sick of these dudes." Yeah, but yeah, to me there is so much to it. I'm personally, I'm not super happy with the fact that we didn't manage to explore even more different, more different dimensions of our music. But you have to understand that we do write a lot of music. Like we do go through like, I don't know, 30 songs, and these are the 8 songs that actually are the best songs we written in those 2 years. So I have many favorite songs that didn't make it on the album, and have more dimensionality to them, like more with clean guitars and like ballads and all that stuff. So that didn't make it to the album. But at the end of the day, we are serving the music, and if the music kind of dictated what we had to do, if it makes sense, without me trying to be very supernatural here, but it made sense. Like these are the 8 songs that were the strongest and told a really cool story. And yeah, but I think there's a lot there. There are many ups and downs, and yeah, I don't know. I think this is even for us that we've played these songs like hundreds of times already. It's very, very exciting to go through that journey, of the album.
One of the sides of the guitars, and since we're on the topic, is the solos. I really dig the solos on this record. Like every solo was always like, wow, this is phenomenal. Like it really added value to the songs. It was not just there because it's like, oh, you kind of expect the solo to be there. No, it was there. It made the song better. It gave more life to the track. How do you approach that specific creative aspect of the guitar solos in the overall design that you have for the tracks themselves?
Yeah, solos are, personally are one of my favorite things to do in general. And there were personally, I was suppressed for many years to not do guitar leads in music, because when I was starting 94 or something, it became extremely uncool to do solos. And so I played a lot of music live without being allowed to do guitar leads, right? So now it's coming out, and watch out, it's gonna I'm not gonna stop doing it. So to me, like this is so much fun, and the way I look at it is that I look at it as mini songs, kind of mini compositions. Personally, I try to, even though my guitar leads are usually extravagant, I do try to channel this like lyrical voice through it, even though there are some things that are extreme. Scott, on the other hand, is the even more lyrical guitar player in this. So his lines are the more I don't want to say simple, because they're not simple, but they're more they channel a voice definitely, rather than a shredding guitar player approach to them. Yeah, there are so many things to talk about. Like I have like personally, I mean, Scott has his own approach to this, but me, like I have all these like people that I admire, and guitar is a very big deal for me. As I said before, I do practice a lot every day through many years. I've been playing for like close to 30 years. I still take lessons. I'm also a guitar teacher. So I do that. That's my day job. I mean, I do that every day, all day. And for me, there's no genre. Not, I mean, guitar is defies genre. So I love Alan Holdsworth as much as I love Marty Friedman and Steve Vai and Al Di Meola and everybody in between, and like sitar players from from the other side of the earth. And it's yeah, it's just so much fun. It's a song within a song, and it's a universe within a universe, kind of, for me. Like the band, the songs, and the guitars and the guitar parts.
I'm assuming you're way more comfortable with the guitar in your hands than a mic then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been singing for me is very new. I've been producing this kind of music for many years as a sound engineer and producer. So I've dealt with like black metal vocals a lot, but and I do sing for teaching and stuff. But I was never a singer before that. So I'm like 5 years into my vocal journey. Definitely, yeah. Singing is not as comfortable as that, but 4 or 5 years would do it. I don't really. I am fine right now.
You're so humble, because I thought the vocal performance on this album is phenomenal. I mean, the vocals
Thank you so much.
have such a unique tone. They have such a unique delivery that while you may come for the guitars, I really feel you stay for the vocals. The vocals are just so cool in terms
Thank
of
you.
their sound. How difficult was it for you to find that soft spot, that nice little spot where the vocals would work really great?
It was more of a challenge during the mixdown process, because I did also mix the album, which was kind of maddening, to be honest with you. To be the fact that I could fix everything even in the last minute was really something that I didn't do very well with. Like I did change things like a day before we delivered the album. So yeah.
Perfectionist.
So.
You're a perfectionist.
Yeah, that's different. It's not really that. Yeah, it's a whole other topic. Like dealing with like mental health during those moments is yeah, it's very complicated. But for me, what I was looking for was, again, the voice is definitely a work in progress, as is everything. But more with a voice, like I'm still trying to find exactly the placement of it. I'm very happy with the album, but right now, to be honest with you, we did this album. We finished this album like almost a year ago. To be honest with you, like 9 months. So until we mixed it and delivered it, we are a little bit further down the line. So with this album, what I wanted to do was to reproduce the album of the sound of the first album, but I don't know, spread the voice out a little bit, if it makes sense, and make it a more pleasant experience to listen to at home, because live we do sound slightly different, because it's a live show. It's so this album was definitely focused on being a at home listening experience. So I wanted to place that voice in a way that sounds good when played in lower volumes, and and like blends well with the guitars and the drums. So that's why it has this like weird tone to it. But it was very, very challenging to do. It took a lot of like a lot of blood and spit and tea and honey and all that stuff. But yeah.
But you got there.
Yeah.
One last question for you, and that is in terms of the lyrical content on the record. Or do you write specifically with the album in mind, or a lot of what we get from the record kind of starts off in different places and then you bring it all together?
When we write, usually we write completely free. We don't put boundaries in anything. We just write songs, and we think of cool things and cool ideas, and sometimes they're terrible, but sometimes they're cool. But then that towards the end of the end of the songwriting process, what happens is that the songs kind of come out. Like it's like you throw some things in a tub and they're gonna float. You know what I mean? So then we connect the dots, like when we have a trident and a Kronian moon and a time raider, it's not very, it's, you know what I mean?
There.
It is there. The story is there, so yeah, we start very loose, but then we tighten and we trim a lot of fat and we tighten things up towards the end.
Wow, really interesting. Ven, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you, man. I absolutely love the record. Great album, really fun
Thank
to
you.
listen to. Congratulations on the album. I'm sure
Thank you.
everybody's looking forward to March 25th for when it's out for everybody to listen to. Once again, thank you for taking the time. All the best to you and the band. And go check it out. March 25th. Voices of the Kronian Moon Nite. The album comes out on Season of Mist. Take care, man.
Thank you.